Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. I have combined all the videos in our website design series into the single long video so that it's easy for you to follow. Now in this video I'll show you how to design this website from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And we'll also have different pages for this website, for 404 page, for the blog list page and the single blog post page and so on. And I will also leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. So let's get started. From this video, we're going to start a series where we're going to design this complete homepage from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Now this is the first video of the series where I'll just show you the demo of the product that we're going to build. So this is how it looks. This is the desktop version. This is the navbar on the top, and we have this hover effect for these links, and then we have this button over here. And then we have this hero section, and we have this image on the right side where we have this background color effect, and we're going to create that using CSS. So we have this hover effect for the image as well. And we also have this gradient color for this text, which you can see in the latest web designs. And if you scroll down, we have this featured section where we have some logos. And then we have this section where we have a simple horizontal layout. And then we have another section where we have the services displayed. And we also have this hover effect for these services. And if you scroll down, we have another section. And we have this accent color added as a background for this section. And let's scroll down, and we have another section for the articles. And if you notice this navbar, we can see that it has this glass effect, so we can see the background elements through the navbar. And here we have these articles, so we have the same hover effect for this as well. And we have a button for viewing all the articles. And then we have this contact section, and then lastly we have the footer. And we also have these hover effects for these social media icons. So this is how this homepage looks for desktop version. And this is also completely responsive. So if you decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on smaller screens. So for tablets, this is how it will look. So we can see that the services are displayed 2 services in a row. And this is how it looks. And let's take a look at the smartphone version. So this is how it will look on a smartphone. We have a completely different layout, and we don't have the menu items displayed over here. We can click on this menu icon and they'll be displayed. And then we have this section displayed one below the other. So we have all the services displayed one below the other. And for this section also we have the vertical layout. And then we have the articles displayed one below the other, and we have all these input fields displayed one below the other. And then for the footer also we have a different layout. So this is what we're going to build from scratch using HTML, CSS and JavaScript in this tutorial series. Right here I have created this folder called app dev homepage, and I just opened it with VS Code. And I also have this folder called images where we have all these images which we're going to use in our design. So let's start by creating the necessary files. I'll just create a new file called index.html. And let's create one more file called style.css. And let's create one more file called main.js. And let's start with the index.html file. Now in VS Code, you can just type exclamation and press tab, and you'll have this basic HTML5 code. Now here for the title, let's type welcome. So this title will be displayed at the top over here. And then let's link our style.css file. So let's type link and press tab. And here in the href, let's type style.css. And we will link the JavaScript in the body. So let's type script:src and press tab. And here let's type main.js. Now the first thing we will do is we'll create a container division. So if you take a look at our website, and if we zoom out a little bit, we can see that all the content is displayed inside a specific max width. So for that, we're going to create a division, and we're going to call the division container. So let's create a division with the class of container. And in that we will create this navbar. So for the navbar, let's create a nav element. And in the nav element, we need to have the logo on the left side. So let's create a division with the class of logo. And in that, let's create an anchor tag. And here, let's type logo. You can add the logo of your website over here. You can also add an image if you like. You can just add an img tag and add the source of your image over here. I'll just type logo for now. And then the next thing we will do is we'll create these menu items. So let's go outside this logo division, and let's create a division with the class of menu items. And in that we will have all these anchor tags that we see over here. So let's create an anchor tag, and you can add the link of your about us page over here. I'll just type hash for now, and here let's type about us. And we need to have 3 more links and 1 button. So I'll just duplicate this 4 times. And for the second one, let's type services. And for the third one, let's type blog. And then we have contact us. And then lastly, we have this button with the text of learn. Now, since this is a button, we need to style it differently. So let's also add a class over here called btn. So that's basically it with the HTML of the navbar. Now let's go ahead and style this. Before that, let's open this in our browser and let's see how it looks. So I have this extension called live server installed in VS Code. So once you have this installed, you can just right click over here in the HTML file and click on open with live server. And here we can see that our content is displayed in the browser. Now let's go ahead and style this and make it look like this. So let's go to our style or CSS file, and first of all, let's import the fonts that we see in our website. So we are using a font called Inter in our website. So let's get the font from Google Fonts. Right, so here I'm in fonts.google.com, and let's search for Inter. And let's select this font, and let's click on Get Font. And here we have the link that we can add to our HTML or CSS. So let's click on Get Embed Code, and you can add it in HTML or CSS. If you want to add it in the HTML, you can just copy this link and add it to your head section. I'll just add it to the CSS. So let's go to the import, and let's copy this import from here, and let's paste it over here. So the fonts have been imported. Right now, the next thing we will do is we will add some reset styles. So let's type asterisk for selecting everything, and we'll also select all the before and the after elements. And here let's type box sizing border box, and this will make sure that we have the correct height and width for all the elements. And now the next thing we will do is we'll create some variables for the colors, so that if you want to later change the colors, we can do that by just changing in one place. So we will access the root, and here let's create a variable called dark color, and let's add this hex code of 1A1423. So this is the dark color that we have. And let's create one more color called light color, and for the hex code, let's type FDFFFC, and let's add an accent color, and for this color, let's type 7161EF. So this is the accent color. So we have all the colors created as variables. Now if you want to change the colors, you can just change it over here in one place, and it will be changed in all the sections of our website. Now the next thing we will do is we will target the body, and we'll remove the default margin that we have. So now we can see that we don't have any margins. Now here in the body, let's also select the color. So let's set the color to var dark color, and the color of these anchor tags are not changing because we need to specifically target that. So let's go ahead and type A, and let's set the color to var dark color. And now we can see that the color of the anchor tags have changed. Now for the anchor tags, we also don't want to have the underlines. So let's go ahead and type text decoration, and let's set it to none. And now we don't have the underlines. Alright, now the next thing we will do is we will style the container. So for the container, we need to have a max width set, and we also need to bring it to the center horizontally. So here we can see that we have created this division with a class of container. So let's target that. Let's type dot container, and let's add a max width of 1200 pixels, and let's bring it to the center by typing margin inline, and let's set it to auto, and let's add a padding of 0 top and bottom and 32 pixels left and right. And now we can see that the content is having a max width, and we also have the content centered horizontally. Now let's also change the font family of all the elements. So let's go over here to this asterisk selector, and here let's type font family, and let's set it to Inter and sans serif. So now we can see that the font has changed. Now before adding the styles for the navbar, let's also add some more common styles. So we will style the btn class. So here we can see we have this btn class. So here let's go ahead and type .btn. And for the button, let's go ahead and add a background color of var accent color. and let's set the color of the text to var light color. And let's go ahead and type padding, and let's set it to 8 pixels top and bottom, 32 pixels left and right. And let's set the display to inline block so that if we add some margin top or bottom, it should be added to this button because it is an anchor tag, and by default anchor tags are set to display of inline. And let's also set the font weight to 500, and this is how the button looks. When you hover this button, we need to change some styles, so we need to change the color of the button. So let's type .btn:hover, and let's set the background color to a darker color, so let's type #5947DE. Here let's also type transition all to 300 milliseconds ease so that we have this smooth transition for the hover effect. Now we need to create other button styles also, like this outlined button and also this light button, but we'll do that later. Let's go ahead and start with the styling of the navbar. So let's go ahead and add a comment. I'll just type navbar. So let's target the nav, and first of all we'll set the position to fixed so that even if we scroll down, the navbar should still be there at the top. Let's type display of flex and justify content to space between so that the logo is on the left side and the other content on the right side. We'll also align them vertically, so let's type align items to the center. Now since we set the position to fixed, we don't have the correct width for the element, so let's type left of 0 and right of 0, and let's add a max width of 1200 pixels, and let's also bring it to the center. I'll just type margin inline auto, and now we can see we have the correct width. Now let's go ahead and add a z index so that it is above all the other elements, and let's set it to 5, and let's add a padding of 16 pixels top and bottom, 32 pixels left and right. Now we need to add this glass effect, so for that let's go ahead and type background, and let's set the color to RGBA 255, 255, 255, and for the opacity let's type 0.8, and then we need to type backdrop filter, and we need to set it to blur, and let's type 10 pixels. And for other browsers, let's also type --webkit backdrop filter, and this should be blur, not blue. And let's also add a box shadow, so let's type box shadow 0, 8 pixels, 42 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.1, and here we can see we have this box shadow. Now for these menu items we need to add some space in between, so let's target the element. We have this class of menu items, so let's tap nav menu items, and let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and let's set a gap of 40 pixels between the elements, and let's set the font weight to 500 as well. Now when we hover over these menu items, we need to change the color, so let's tap nav menu items a:hover, and let's set the color to var accent color, and now we can see we have this hover effect. And here also we have the change in the color, so let's revert the color for this button. So we can go ahead and type nav menu items btn:hover. So when you hover over the button inside the nav bar, we need to keep the color as the light color, and now we can see that everything looks alright. Alright, now the last thing we need to do in this nav bar is style this logo. So let's go ahead and type nav logo, and let's set the font weight to 700, and let's set the font size to 18 pixels, and this is how it looks. We can go ahead and remove nav from here, so we can use the logo styles in the footer as well. So this is our nav bar, and with that we have completed designing the nav bar of our website. Right here I'm in the source code of our website, and let's go ahead and write the HTML of our hero section. So let's go to the HTML file, and let's go outside the nav element, and here I'll just create a comment. I'll just type end of nav bar, and let's create a header for the hero section. And in this header we need to have two sections, one for this content on the left side and one for the image. So let's create a division with the class of left, And in this left division, we need to have an H1 for this text. So I'll just copy this and let's create an H1 and let's paste it over here. And then we need to have a subheading. So I'll just copy this and let's create a paragraph tag and let's give it a class of subheading and let's paste the text over here. And then we need to have these two buttons that we see over here. Now for these buttons, we're going to create a container division. So let's create a division with the class of buttons. And in this, we'll create anchor tags for the buttons. And let's create a class and let's give it a class of btn. And here for the first button, let's type learn more. And let's duplicate this button over here. And for the second button, we need to type contact us. So let's type contact us over here. Now this button is a little bit different. We have a different styling for this button. So let's add one more class over here and I'll just add a class called outlined and we will style it in the CSS. And then on the right side, we need to have the image. So let's go outside this left division. And here let's create a division with the class of right and let's add an img tag over here. And here let's type images / hero image.png. And now if you go back to our website, this is how it looks. We have all the content displayed. Now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go back to our source code. And before going to the CSS, we also need to add this background color that we see over here. So for that, we need to add a class. So let's go outside this right division and let's create a division with the class of bg color. And we'll just leave the division blank and we will style it using CSS. So let's go to a style.css file and let's start adding the styles. Now before adding the styles for the header, let's go ahead and add some common styles. So let's add some styles for all the images. So let's type img. And for all the images, I'll just set the width to 100% of the parent. And we'll also type display of flex so that the images don't have extra spacing at the bottom. Now we need to add some more common styles, but before that, let's go ahead and bring these elements one next to the other. So we need to have the left content on the left side and this image on the right side. So here I'll just create a comment and I'll just type hero section and let's target the header and let's set the display to flex and let's set a height of 100 viewport height and let's type align items to the center to align it vertically and let's add a padding top so that the content is not displayed here below this navbar. So let's take a height of this navbar. Let's right click over here and let's click on inspect. So now if we hover over this, we can see that we have a height of 67 pixels. So I'll just add a padding of, let's round it to 70 pixels. So let's type padding top of 70 pixels. And let's set the minimum height of the hero section to 600 pixels. And let's add a maximum height of 800 pixels. So by default, the height will be 100 viewport height and the minimum height will be 600 and the maximum height will be 800 pixels. Right, now let's go back and this is how it looks. Let's style this H1. So let's go to the top over here and let's add some styles for the H1. And let's set the font size of the H1 to 60 pixels. And let's add a line height of 100%. Let's set the font weight to 800. And let's set a letter spacing of -1 pixels. Let's also add a margin. So let's tap margin and let's set the margin to 16 pixels, top and bottom, 0 for left and right. Now if we go back to the original design, we can see that we have this linear gradient color for this text. So for that, let's go ahead and let's add a background color of linear gradient and let's set it to 90 degrees. And for the first color, let's type 312972 and let's set it to 7%. And for the second color, let's type 1A1423 and let's set it to 60%. And now if we go back here, we can see that we have this background color. Now we need to add this background color to the actual text. So for that, we can just type background clip and we need to set it to text. And we need to set the color of the text to transparent. And now we can see we have this linear gradient color displayed over here for the text. I think we can increase this percentage over here. Let's try 20 pixels. And let's also change the color to a little light color. And this is how it looks. We'll also add a WebKit background clip so that it works on all the browsers. So let's type WebKit background clip and let's set it to text. Right now let's go ahead and add some styles to all the paragraphs. So let's tap P and let's set the font size of all the paragraph to 16 pixels. Let's set the line height to 160%. Right now let's go ahead and style this container for the button, and we need to add some space between these buttons. So let's target the container division, and it has a class of buttons. So here let's type buttons, and let's set the display to flex, and let's add a gap of 24 pixels, and let's add a margin top, and let's set it to 32 pixels. And this is how it looks. Right now for this button we need to have a different styling. So we have added a class called outlined for this button. So let's style that. And if you scroll up, here we can see we have added some styles for the button. So here we will add the styles for the outlined button. So here I'll just type button.outlined. So this will select the button with the class of outlined. And for this one we'll set the color to the accent color. So let's type var accent color. And the background color should be set to var light color. And then we also need to add a border. So let's add the border over here itself. So for the button, let's tap border and let's set it to 2 pixels, solid var of accent color. And this is how the button looks. Now when you hover over this button, we need to have a different hover effect. So when you hover over this, we need to have the accent color added to the button. So let's go back, and here let's type button.outlined :hover, and let's add a background color of var accent color, and let's set the color to white. And here we have the hover effect for this button. Now when you hover over this button, we can see that the border of the button has the same color as before when you hover over this. So let's change that as well when we hover over the button. So here we can see that we have set the border to 2 pixels, solid var accent color. So I'll just copy this. And here for the hover effect, let's paste the style. And here instead of accent color, let's add the same color that we see over here. And now everything looks alright. Right now let's style this left division. So here we can see we have created this division with the class of left. So here I'll just type header left, and let's set the max width to 50%. Now what we will do is we will position this image relative to this header. So for the header, I'll just tap position relative, and let's tap header right, and let's set the position to absolute, and we'll set the bottom position to 0 and the right position to 0. And now let's set the height for the image. So let's tap header right img, and let's set the height to 600 pixels, and let's tap object fit to cover so that it has the correct proportions. Now let's go back, and this is how it looks. So everything is looking alright. Now let's go ahead and add this background color that we see over here. So for that we have created this division with the class of bg color. So let's go ahead and target that. I'll just tap header bg color, and let's go ahead and set the position to absolute, and let's set the width to 400 pixels and the height to 400 pixels. Let's add a background color of AD9 5FF, and here we have the element. Let's bring it to the right side. So let's type right of 0, and let's set the top value to 120 pixels. And now we need to send this to the back of our image. So let's type z index, and let's set it to -1. Alright, now let's set the border radius to 50%. So let's type border radius 50%, and now we can see it has this round shape. And now we need to blur this. So let's type filter blur, and let's set the value to 115 pixels. And this is how it looks. So with that we have designed the hero section of our website. Here I'm in the source code of our website. So let's go to the HTML file, and here let's go to the end of this div, and let's create a comment. I'll just type end of hero section, and let's create a division, and let's give it a class of featured, and in that let's create a division with the class of container, and let's create an h2, and let's add this text over here, And after that, we need to have these logos displayed over here. So let's create a division for that. Let's create a division of the class of logos. And let's add the images over here. So I'll just tap img, and in the source, let's tap images / Airbnb logo.svg. And then we need to have 3 more logos. So I'll just duplicate this. And then we have Spotify. And then we have Google and Canva. And here let's go ahead and add a comment. I'll just tap end of featured section. And now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So if you go back to our web page, this is how it looks. We have all the logos displayed over here. Let's go back to our style.css file and let's start styling this. First of all, let's add some common styles for all the H2. So here below the H1, let's go ahead and type H2. And let's set the font size to 36 pixels. Let's set the line height to 120%. And let's set the font weight to 800. Let's set the letter spacing to -1 pixels. Let's add a margin of 8 pixels top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. And let's go ahead and add the same background color that we see over here. So I'll just copy these 4 lines of CSS and I'll just paste them over here. And here we have this color. Let's make some changes over here. So I'll just change this back to, let's try 8%. And let's change the color a little bit. And I think this looks all right. Now while we are here, let's also add some styles for the S3. So let's tap S3. And the S3 are basically these headings that we see over here. And these headings. So let's add some styles for that. So I'll just tap font size 24 pixels, line height of 130%, letter spacing of -1 pixels, and margin of 8 pixels and 0. Right now let's style the featured section. So let's scroll down and let's create a comment called featured section. And the first thing we will do is we will style all the images. So let's type featured img and let's set the width to auto, and let's set a height of 32 pixels. Right now let's bring all these images one next to the other. So we have this container division called logos. So I'll just tap featured logos and let's set the display to flex, and let's set a gap of 60 pixels, and let's tap flex wrap to wrap, so that if we have less space then it will wrap to the next line. And let's tap justify content center. Right now let's style this container division inside featured. So here let's type featured container, and let's set the display to flex and flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 8 pixels, and let's tap align items to the center. Right now let's add some padding to this container. So let's tap padding of 40 pixels top and bottom, and 32 pixels left and right. And let's add a box shadow, and let's set the value to 0 pixels, 0 pixels, 42 pixels, -20 pixels, RGBA, and let's set the value to 0, 0, 0 and 0.2. And here we have the featured section. Let's also add rounded corners. So let's tap border radius and let's set the value to 30 pixels. And let's also set the background color to the light color that we set for the variable. So let's tap background var light color. And with that we have styled our featured section. Right here I'm in my source code, and let's go to the HTML file. Right, let's go outside this featured section division and let's create a new section with an ID of about. We need to have all the content inside a specific max width. So let's add the container division over here. So let's tap .container, and we need to have this left division and this right division. So let's create a division with the class of left, and in the left division we need to have an h2, and let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. And then after that we need to have a paragraph, and let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. And then we need to have these two sections over here. So let's create a division with a class of features container. And in that we'll have each of these different features. So let's create a division with a class of feature. And in that we need to have the icon. So let's create a division with the class of icon. And for the icon, let's type img. And in the source, let's type images / check icon.svg. And after the icon, we need to have a heading. So let's copy this. And let's create an S3 for this heading. And let's paste it over here. And then we need to create a paragraph. Let's copy this text. And let's paste it over here. Now we need to have one more feature. So let's copy this feature division. And let's paste it down here. And let's change the text. So let's copy this beautiful UI. And let's paste it over here. And let's copy this text. And let's paste it over here. And then down here we need to have this button. So let's go ahead and go outside the features container division, which is this container division, and let's create a button. Let's create an anchor tag, and here let's add a class, and let's add a class of btn. Now this is a different kind of button. We need to have the outline for the button, and when you hover over this, we need to have this hover effect. So we already created this button over here at the top over here in the hero section. So for that we have added this class of outlined. So let's type outlined over here. And for the text of the button, let's type learn more. And then on the right side, we need to have the image. So let's go outside the left division, this left division right here. And let's create a division with the class of right. And in that we will have the image. And let's type images / image1.jpg. And now if you go back to our website, here we can see that we have all the content displayed over here. We have the heading, paragraph, the icon, and all those things over here. Now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go back to our style.css file. And the first thing we need to do is we need to add a background color for this section. So here we can see that we have this separation, and we need to bring it up a little bit. So let's go ahead and add this background color. So I'll just create a comment. I'll just type about section. And we have added an ID of about. So let's type #about. And let's add a background color of F5, F5, F5. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. So right now it is at the bottom of the featured section. So let's add a negative margin. And let's set it to -60 pixels. And then to compensate with this margin top, let's add a padding top. And let's set it to 180 pixels. And this is how it looks. Now the about section is on top of the featured section. Now we need to send it behind this featured section. So for that, let's go to the featured section, and we have this division with the class of featured. So let's target that. Let's start featured, and let's set a z index of, let's try 2. And it is still not being displayed at the top. So if you go back to the featured division, and if I inspect this, and if you go to the featured division, and here we can see that we have this message, and it says the position static property prevents z index from having an effect. So we need to go ahead and add a position of relative. And now we can see that the featured section is on top of the about section. Right now the next thing we will do is we will have these two divisions, left and right divisions, one next to the other. So if you go back to our HTML file, here we can see that inside the about section we have this container division, and in the container division we have the left and the right divisions. So let's add a display of flex to the container of the about. So let's type #about container, and let's set the display to flex, and align items to the center, and let's add a gap of 80 pixels. Right now let's go ahead and change the width of these icons. So let's type section, and I'll just target all the sections, and let's type icon, and let's set the width to 30 pixels. And now we can see that we have the correct width for the icons. Now we need to display these two features one next to the other. So let's type features container, and let's set the display to flex. Here we can see that we have this division with the class of features container. So here let's add a gap of 40 pixels between the elements, and let's also set a margin top of 32 pixels. So now we can see that we have it displayed correctly. Now we need to have the width of both these features as the same width. So for that, let's go ahead and target the feature division, which is inside the features container. And let's go ahead and set the flex to 1. So it will have the same width for both these features. Now for the buttons inside the sections, we need to have a margin top. So let's type section btn, and let's add a margin top of 32 pixels. Let's change it to 28 pixels. Let's see how it looks. And I think that looks alright. Now for all the sections in our website, we will have a default padding. So let's go back and let's go to the top. And here let's add some styles for the sections. So here let's tap section. And let's add a padding of 140 pixels, top and bottom, and 0 for left and right. And now we can see that we have the correct padding for all our sections. I think we can change it to, let's try 120 pixels. Alright, that looks fine. So with that, we have designed the about section of our website. Right here, I'm in the source code of our website, and let's go to the HTML file and let's go outside our about section and let's add a comment. I'll just type end of about section. Right now, let's go ahead and create a section with an ID of services. And let's create a container division for the max width. And in that, we need to have this heading. So let's copy this and let's create an h2 and let's paste it over here. And then we need to copy this paragraph and let's create a p tag and let's paste the text over here. Now here we can see that for our heading and paragraph, we have a max width which is much smaller than the container. So let's add the heading and the paragraph inside its own container. So let's create a heading container over here. And let's add the paragraph and the heading inside this. Right now we need to create these services. So let's create a division for that. Let's go outside the heading container and let's create a division of the class of services container. And in that we need to have the service. And in the service we need to have the image at the top. So let's create an img tag and let's type images / service1.jpg. And then we need to have an s3 and this paragraph. So let's add both of this inside a division so that we can add some padding for these two elements. So let's create a division with the class of content and let's create an s3. Let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. Let's create a paragraph and let's copy this text and let's paste it over here. Now let's go ahead and copy this service and let's paste it down here 2 more times. So for the second service, let's go ahead and change the image to service2.jpg and let's copy this text and let's paste it for the heading. And let's copy this text and paste it for the paragraph. Let's do the same for the last service. Let's copy this and paste it for the heading. And we need to change the image to service3.jpg. Let's copy this paragraph and let's paste it over here. So with that, we have created all the services in our HTML. So let's go to our website and this is how it looks right now. Now let's go ahead and style this. So let's go to our CSS file and let's go ahead and create a comment called services section. And first of all, let's target the heading container in which we have the heading and this subheading. So let's type section heading container and let's set a max width of 500 pixels and let's text align it to the center. Let's also add margin bottom of 60 pixels and we need to bring it to the center. So let's type margin inline, which is margin left and right, and let's set it to auto. Right now let's go ahead and display all these services one next to the other. So we will be using display of grid for that. So let's type services container. And here we can see we have this division with the class of services container, and in that we have all these services. So let's set the display to grid and grid template columns to repeat, auto fit, and let's add a min max of 320 pixels and 1fr. Now what this will do is it will display all these features one next to the other, and when the width can no longer be 320 pixels, it will drop to the next row. So here we can see this is how it looks. Right now let's go ahead and add some gap. So let's add a gap of 40 pixels. Now let's go ahead and add some box shadow. So let's type services container service box shadow and let's set the value to 0, 6 pixels, 40 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.1. And we need to add some padding for this content. So let's type services container content and let's add a padding of 16 pixels. And now when we hover over this, we need to have this hover effect. So for that, let's go ahead and type services container service colon hover, and let's set the transform value to scale of 1.04, and we'll also change the box shadow to 0.3 pixels, 80 pixels, RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.1, and let's add a smooth transition. So I'll just type transition of all 300 milliseconds is, and here we can see we have this hover effect. So with that, we have designed our services section. Now let's also design this why choosers section over here. It is almost the same as this about section. We just need to flip the image on the left side and this content on the right side. So for that, let's go ahead and copy the HTML of the about section. So this is the about section. I'll just copy this and let's scroll down, and here I'll just create a comment. I'll just type end of services section, and let's paste the about section over here, and here let's type end of why choose us section. And let's scroll up and make the necessary changes. First of all, we'll change the ID to why, and let's go back to our demo website and let's copy this heading. Let's paste it over here, and let's copy this paragraph. Let's paste it over here, and we have these two different sections over here. Let's copy this heading and let's paste it for this heading, and let's copy this paragraph and let's paste it over here, and let's copy this heading and paste it over here, and lastly we have this paragraph and let's paste it over here. Now for the button, we need to type contact us. Now this is a different kind of button. We have this light background for this button, and we have this hover effect. So for that, we will add a class called light, and I think we haven't styled it, so we'll also style it. So the next thing we need to do is we need to bring this image on the left side and the content on the right side. So let's copy this division. Let's cut this division from here and let's paste it about the left section, and let's change this to left. Let's change this to right, and now let's change the image to image2.png. And now if you go back to our website, this is how it looks. Now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go back to our CSS file and let's create a comment. I'll just type why section, and first of all let's set the content to one next to the other. So here we can see we have this section, and in that we have this container division. So let's type why container. Let's set the display to flex, and let's add a gap of 60 pixels, and let's align items to the center. Now everything is looking almost like we want. We just need to change the background color. So let's go back and let's type why. Let's change the background color to var accent color, and let's change the color of all the text to var light color, and we need to change the color of this heading as well. So for that, if we go back to our H2, here we can see that we have added this background of linear gradient, and we have this background clip set to text, so that we have this gradient color for our text. So just copy this and I'll just paste it over here, and let's change the selector to hash y h2, so it will just target the h2 inside the y section. Let's delete all of this, and let's change the background color to var light color. And now if you go back, here we can see that the text has the correct color. Now we also need to change the color of the icon. So right now the color of the icon is the same as this background, so it is not being displayed right now. So for changing the color, we will use a property called filter. So let's type hash y icon, and let's type filter, and let's set the brightness to 0 and invert to 1. So this will change the color to white. Right now the last thing we need to do is we need to change the style of the button. So let's go to the top and let's go to the styles where we have styled all the buttons. So here let's go ahead and add a new button style called button light, because we have added a class of light for the button. And for the button light, we need to have the background set to var light color, and we need to set the color to var dark color, and we need to set the border to 2 pixels solid var light color. And now if you go back here, we can see that we have the button being displayed correctly. Now let's add the hover effect. So let's type button dot light colon hover, and when we hover over the button, we need to type background, and we need to set the background color to accent color, and we need to set the color of the text to light color. And this is how the button looks. We also have the hover effect. So everything is working alright. So that's basically it with this video. We have designed the services section and also the why choosers section. Right here I'm in the source code of our website, and let's go to the index.html file, and let's start by creating this our latest articles section. So here let's go ahead and create a container division, and in that we'll create a section with an ID of blog. Now in this, the first thing we need to have is the heading and the subheading. Now for this heading and subheading, we have a fixed width that we see over here. So if you go back to the CSS, and if you take a look at the heading container, let's search for heading container, and here we can see that for heading containers inside the sections, we have a max width of 500 pixels. So let's add a division with the class of heading container, and in this we will add the heading and the subheading. So I'll just copy this, and let's create an h2 and paste it over here. And here let's create a paragraph. Let's copy this text, and let's paste it over here. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to create these different blog cards. Now these are almost the same as these cards over here. We just need to add the labels below this heading over here for the blogs. So what we can do is we can use the same classes that we used over here. So if you go back to our HTML, and if you go to the services section, here we can see that we have created this division with the class of services container, and in that we have the service division. So I'll just go ahead and copy this services container from here, and I'll just paste it down here. And now if you go back, and if you go to the website, here we can see that our heading and subheading and these block cards are displayed over here. So it is styled almost perfectly. We just need to add these labels over here and this button. So further, let's go back and let's make changes to this content. Now here for the image, we need to make it clickable. So in services, we didn't have this link for these services. Now for this blog post, we need to have a link. So when we click on this image, we need to go to the link of this blog post, and we need to do the same for the heading of the blog posts. So we need to add them inside anchor tags. So here for the service, inside this service division, let's create an anchor tag, and here we can add the link of the post, and let's add this image inside this anchor tag. Let's go ahead and change the image to blog1.jpg, and here inside the content we need to add this s3 inside an anchor tag. So let's create an anchor tag over here, and let's add the s3 inside the anchor tag, and let's change the headings over here. So let's go back to our original design, and let's copy this heading, and let's paste it over here. And let's do the same with this paragraph, and let's paste it over here. Now we need to add the labels over here. So for the labels, we'll create a division with the class of labels, and in that for each of the labels we'll create anchor tags, and let's give it a class of label. And for this we have two labels, game dev and programming. So let's type game dev, and let's duplicate this, and here let's type programming. Right now let's go ahead and copy this service, and I'll just paste it down here 2 more times. I'll just delete the previous service division, and let's paste it down here 2 more times, and let's make changes in the content. So for the second one, let's change this to blog2.jpg, and here for the heading, let's copy this heading from here, and let's paste it over here. And let's change the labels to game dev and animations, and let's copy this paragraph, and let's paste it over here. And let's do the same for the third blog. So here let's change this to blog3.jpg, and let's copy this heading, and I'll just paste it over here. And we need to have the labels as networking and advanced. And advanced. Let's copy this paragraph and let's paste it over here. And then lastly, we need to have the button for displaying all the posts. So let's scroll down and go just before the section, and here let's create an anchor tag, and let's create a button. So let's give it a class of btn, and this button is going to be outlined, so we need to have just the outline. So let's add a class of outlined, and we have already created the class over here. So here for this button we have this outlined class. So let's go ahead and add a text of view all posts. And now if you go back to our website, here we can see that we have all the content displayed almost exactly as we want. We just need to style these labels now. So let's do that. Let's go back and let's go to the style.css file, and let's create a comment called blog section. And let's style the labels. For the labels, we have this class of label, and it is inside the labels division. So let's go ahead and type blog labels A. So we are targeting all the anchor tags inside the labels, and let's set the color to light color, and let's set the font weight to 500, and let's set the font size to 11 pixels. Let's set the text transform to uppercase and a letter spacing of 2 pixels, and let's add a background color. So let's type blog label, and let's add a background color of var accent color, and let's add a padding of 3 pixels top and bottom, 6 pixels left and right, and let's add a border radius of 4 pixels. So that's basically it with the blog section of our website. Now let's go ahead and create this contact us section. So let's go back to our HTML file, and let's go outside this div and let's create a comment. I'll just type end of blog section, and now let's create a section with an ID of contact, and in that we'll create a container division. And for the heading and the subheading, let's create a heading container, and let's create an h2, and let's copy this heading and let's paste it over here. Let's create a paragraph for the subheading. Let's copy this and let's paste it over here. Right now we need to create the form, so let's create a form element, and in this we need to have these different input fields and this text area. Now for these two input fields, we'll create a single division so that they are one next to the other. So let's create a division with the class of group, and let's create an input field, and let's add a placeholder. Let's type full name, and let's duplicate this, and here let's type email. And if you want to add labels, you can add that over here as well. You can just type label and add the label over here. Now since this is just a simple form, I'll just add these input fields with placeholders. Now after this we need to have this text area, so let's go outside this div and let's create a text area, and let's add a placeholder over here, and let's type your message. And then lastly we need to have a button, so I'll just create a button over here, and let's give it a class of btn, and let's type send message. So let's go back to our website, and this is our form. We'll also set the cursor to pointer when we hover over this button. So let's go back to the styles of the button, and for the button let's add a cursor of pointer. Right now let's go back and let's go ahead and style this contact form that we have over here. Before that, I'll just go ahead and add a comment. I'll just type end of contact form. Let's go to the style.css file and let's start styling this. Let's create a comment. I'll just type contact form. Now the first thing we need to do is we need to add a background color over here. So let's target the contact section, and let's set a background color of F5, F5, F5. And now let's go ahead and style this form. So let's type form display of flex and flex direction to column. Let's add a gap of 16 pixels. Now let's go ahead and style the group division. So here we can see inside the group division we have both these input fields. So let's tap form, group, display of flex, and let's add a gap of 16 pixels over here. Right now let's go ahead and style these input fields. So let's type form input and form text area. Let's set the width to 100%. Let's set a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 24 pixels left and right. Let's add a background color of white, and let's set the border to none, and let's set the font size to 16 pixels. And this is how our form looks. Let's also style this text area separately. So let's type form text area. Let's set the height to 100 pixels and resize to none so that the user is not able to resize the text area. Now for this button we don't have the correct font size and also the width. So the font size of the button is set to 16 pixels. So let's go over here and let's target the button inside the form. So let's type form btn. Let's set the font size to 16 pixels and let's set the width to fit content. And we also need to remove the margin on top of this button for the contact section. So here let's type margin top 0, and this is how it looks. Right now the last thing we will do is we'll create the footer. So here we have this footer. So let's go to our HTML file and let's create a footer element, and let's create a div with a class of container. And then we need to have this top section where we have the logo, this subheading, and these social media icons. So let's create a division with the class of top. And for the left section, let's create a division with the class of left. And in that we need to have the logo. So let's create an anchor tag with a class of logo. And here let's type logo. And let's copy this paragraph and let's create a p tag. And let's paste it over here. And then let's create a division with the class of right. And here we need to have this text, follow us on. So let's copy this and let's create a paragraph, paste it over here. And then we need to have the social media icons. So let's create a division with the class of social. And in that let's create an anchor tag. And here you can add the link of your social media pages. And here let's create an img tag. And for the source, let's type images/xlogo.svg. Let's copy this anchor tag and paste it 2 more times. And for the second logo, we need to have Instagram, and then we need to have dribble. And then let's go outside the top division. And here, let's create a division with the class of copyright. And let's add the text over here. So I'll just copy this and let's paste it over here. So that's it with the HTML of our footer. Now let's go to style.css file and let's style it. Let's add a comment called footer. And right now this is how our footer looks. So the first thing we will do is we will change the size of these icons. So let's type footer social img and let's set the width to 30 pixels. And we need to have this hover effect for these icons. So for that, let's go ahead and type footer social img : hover, and let's type transform scale of 1.2, and let's add a smooth transition. I'll just type transition of all 300 milliseconds ease. So now we can see that we have this hover effect. Now let's go ahead and add a dark background color for this footer. So let's type footer and let's type background. Let's type var dark color. Let's set the color of all the text to white. And let's add a padding of 60 pixels. And for left and right, let's type 32 pixels. Let's also change the color of this logo. So let's type footer A for the anchor tag, and let's type color of light color. Let's also change this to light color. Now we need to have these social media icons one next to the other. So let's target the social division. I'll just type footer social, and let's set the display to flex. Let's add a gap of 32 pixels, and let's set the margin top to 24 pixels. Now we need to have these two divisions one next to the other. So let's target the container, which is this division with the class of top, and let's set the display to flex. So let's type footer top display of flex. Let's type justify content space between, and now we can see that they are aligned to the left and to the right. Now for the logo inside the footer, let's set the font size to be a little bit higher. So I'll just go ahead and target the logo. So just a footer logo, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels. Let's try 24 pixels. And then lastly, let's also style this copyright division. So let's type footer copyright, and let's set the color to RGBA 255, 255, 255, and for the opacity, let's type 0.5. And with that, we have styled the footer of our website. Now, before starting with the responsive version, let's make these menu items work. So when we click on this About Us, we need to go to the About Us section of our website. So let's go to our source code, and here we have the About Us link. And if you scroll down here, we can see that we have this section with an ID of About Us. So we can link this ID to our link over here. So let's type About over here, and let's save this. Now if you click on this About Us link, we are taken to the About Us section. Now we need to smoothly go to that section. So for that, let's go back and let's go to the CSS. And let's add a style to the HTML. So let's type HTML scroll behavior, and let's set it to smooth. And now let's go back, and if I click on this About Us link, we are smoothly taken to that place. Right now, let's do the same for all the other sections. So here we have services. So I'll just type hash services over here. And for blog, let's type hash blog. And here let's type contact us or contact. Right now, let's scroll down and let's see whether we have the correct IDs for the section. So let's scroll down, and here we have the services section. We have the correct ID. And then we have the Y section, and we don't have any menu items for that. So let's move on. And here we have the blog section. So we have the correct ID. And then for the contact also, we have the correct ID. So everything is working all right. Let's click on these menu items, and let's see whether everything is working all right. So for services, it is not working correctly. So let's go to the services section. And here we have services as the ID. Let's scroll up, and here we have services. So this should work. Right now it is working. So we have the About Us, services, blog, and contact us. So everything is working all right. All right, now let's start making this responsive. So let's go to our CSS, and let's add a media query. Let's type @media, and let's set the max width to 1100 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 1100 pixels, these CSS styles will be added to our design. So the first thing we will do is we will set the font size of the H1 to 48 pixels. So let's go back, and now let's reduce the width of the browser window. And now we can see that we have this smaller font size. And let's go back, and the next thing we will do is for the header image, we will change the width. So let's type header, and we have the right division, and in that we have the img tag. So let's type width, and let's set it to 280 pixels, and this is how it looks. So this is for tablet screens, and this is for desktop version. And let's scroll down, and let's see whether we have any problems for the other sections. So everything is looking all right. We have these services wrapping to the next row. So we don't have any more problems in the tablet version. Let's go to the mobile version. So let's reduce the screen width even more. And now let's add a media query for smartphones. So let's type @media, and let's set the max width to 800 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 800 pixels, these styles will be added. So the first thing we will do is we will set the font size of the H1 to 36 pixels, and let's set the line height to 120%. And for the container, we have set a max width over here. So here we can see for the container, we have set a max width of 1200 pixels. So for smaller screens, let's type container, and let's set the max width to 700 pixels. Now let's also change the styles of the H2 and S3. So here we have the H2. So let's type H2, and let's set the font size to 28 pixels. And line height to 130%, and let's style the S3. So let's type S3, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels. Right now let's start with the styling of the nav. So we have the nav element, and for the nav element we need to hide these menu items from here. So let's go to our HTML file, and here we can see we have this division with the class of menu items. So let's hide that. I'll just type nav menu items, display of none. And now we need to display a menu icon over here. So for that, let's go back and here in the HTML, and let's go outside the menu items division and let's create a division with the class of menu icon. Now here I'll just add an image that I have over here called menu icon.svg. So let's add that over here. I'll just create an img tag and let's type images / menu icon.svg. And now let's go to our style.css file, and what we need to do is we need to hide it in the desktop version. So here let's type hidden elements, and here let's type menu icon and let's set the display to none. And here in smaller screens, let's type menu icon and let's set the display to block. So if you are on desktop version, we don't have the menu icon displayed, but on smaller screens we have it displayed. Now here if you go back to the style.css file, and here if we add a background color, let's type red. Now we can see that we don't have much spacing around the icon. So let's add a padding of, let's try 2 pixels so that the user has some space to touch on this icon. So let's remove this and let's set the cursor to pointer. And this is the menu icon. Now let's start with the hero section. So for the hero section, we have this header. And if you go to a style.css file and if you go to the header, here we can see that for the header right division where we have the image, this is the division right here. So for this division, we had set a position of absolute. And now what we need to do is we need to remove the position absolute from this right division. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's scroll down, and here let's add a comment. I'll just type header, and here let's type header right, and let's set the position to relative. And now we need to bring this text content and this image one below the other. So for that, let's go ahead and target the header, and let's set the flex direction to column. And now the image is at the bottom, so let's change this to column reverse. Now the image is at the top and the text content at the bottom. And right now we have a fixed height for this header, so let's set the height to auto. And let's add a gap of 20 pixels between the elements, and let's set the max height to fit content. So it will fit all the content of our header. Right now let's go ahead and style this image. So let's type header right img, and let's set the width to 70%, and let's set the height to auto. And let's add a border radius of 0, 0, 30%, 30%. And let's bring this to the center. So here for the right division, let's type justify content center. And let's set the display to flex. And now it is in the center. If you go back to the CSS of the desktop version, here for the header, for the left division, we have set a max width of 50%. Now we need to change it back to 100%. So let's go over here and let's type header left, and let's set the max width to 100%. And with that, we have styled the header of our website. And let's also add some padding bottom over here. So let's go to the header, and let's add a padding bottom of 60 pixels. And now everything looks all right. And now for the featured section, let's go ahead and reduce the gap a little bit. So let's go over here and let's type featured, and here let's type featured logos, and let's set a gap of 36 pixels. And now for the images inside the featured division, let's go ahead and set a height. So let's type featured img, and let's set the height to 28 pixels. Right now let's style the about us section. So here we can see that we have the text content and the image side by side. Now we need to display them one below the other. So let's add a comment. I'll just type about, and here let's type #about, which is the ID for the about section. And if you go to the HTML file, let's go to the about section, and here for the about section we have the container division, and in that we have the left and the right divisions. So let's target the container. So let's type .container over here, and let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see that the content are one below the other. Now here we have these two elements, which are the features container. So here we can see that in the HTML file we have this division with the class of features container, and in that we have these two features. So let's bring that also one below the other. So here let's type #about, or let's go ahead and target it directly because we have the same division down here as well. So let's go ahead and directly target the features container. So let's type features container and let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see everything looks alright in the about us section. Right now let's go to the services section, and here we have everything being displayed correctly. So let's move on to the next section, which is the Y choosers section. So for that we have an ID of Y. So let's type Y choose us section and let's type hash Y, and I think in that also we have a container. So let's scroll down, and here we can see inside the Y division we have the container, and in that we have the left and the right divisions. So let's add y.container, and here let's type flex direction of column, and now we can see that we have it displayed correctly. So we have the features also being displayed correctly because we have directly targeted the features container over here. Right now let's go to the next section, which is the blog section, and everything is looking all right over here. Let's go to the contact section, and for the contact us section, let's bring these name and email input fields one below the other. So if you go to the contact section in the HTML, here we can see that we have this group, we have this division with the class of group, and that we have these two input fields. So let's target this group. Here let's type form group, and let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see that the fields are one below the other. And let's scroll down, and lastly we have the footer. So let's style the footer. I'll just create a comment. I'll just type footer over here, and here the first thing we will do is we will bring these two elements, the left and the right section. So if you go to the HTML file and if you go to the footer, here we can see we have this division of the class of top, and in that we have the left and the right section. So let's target the top division. So let's type footer top, and let's set the flex direction to column. And now we can see that they are one below the other. For the footer, we can see that we have set a padding of 60 pixels top and bottom, and 32 pixels left and right. Now for the left and right, we don't want to have any padding because the padding is already added in the container division. So what we will do is let's type footer, and let's add a padding of 40 pixels top and bottom and 0 for left and right. And this is how the footer looks. And the last thing we will do is we will add some margin top for this copyright division. So let's type footer copyright margin top, and let's set it to 40 pixels, and it is looking alright. So that's basically it with the mobile version of our website. The first thing we need to do is we need to create a division for the mobile menu items. So we already have these menu items over here. So I'll just go ahead and copy this div from here, and let's paste it outside our container division. This will be different altogether, and we'll just give a class of mobile menu items. Now in this we also need to have the close icon. So let's create a division with the class of close icon, and here let's add the image of the close icon. So let's type img, and in the source let's type images/close icon.svg. Right now let's go ahead and style this, and let's go to the style.css file. And the first thing we will do is we will hide this in the desktop version. So here let's go ahead and add the mobile menu items. So let's type mobile menu items, and here in the mobile version we need to display it. So let's type mobile menu items, and let's set the display to flex, and let's set the height to 100 viewport height and width to 100%, and let's set the position to fixed, and we need to set the flex direction to column, and let's add a background color, and let's set the color to the dark variable that we created. Let's also add a z index so that it is above all the other elements. So let's type z index, and let's set it to, let's try 800, and let's type justify content to center and align items to the center. Right now let's go ahead and set the color of all the anchor tags to light color. So let's type mobile menu items A, and let's set the color to var light color. And now let's add some gap between these elements. So let's add a gap of 24 pixels. Right now let's style the close icon. So let's target that. I'll just type mobile menu items close icon. Now for changing the color of this icon to white, we have already used a code over here. So let's reuse that. So here we can see that we have used filter of brightness 0 and invert 1. So let's copy this and let's paste it over here. Right now, let's go ahead and set the position of the close icon to fixed, and we need to position it on the top right over here. So I'll just tap top 18 pixels and right of 32 pixels, and let's set the cursor to pointer. And by default, this menu items should not be displayed over here. It should be outside the screen. So here for the menu items, let's go ahead and type transform, translate X, and let's set it to 100%. So it will be outside the screen on the right side. And when we click on this menu icon, we will add a class called active to this. So let's type mobile menu items dot active, and here we'll just type transform translate X of 0. And let's also add smooth transition. So here I'll just type transition of all 300 milliseconds is. Right now, if we go to our HTML file and if we add a class of active over here, then we can see that the menu items are displayed. And if I remove the active class, then it is removed. So now let's go ahead and add this functionality using JavaScript. So let's go to our main.js file, and let's see whether we have linked it in our index.html file. So here we have already linked it. So let's go to our main.js file and let's start writing the functionality. So first of all, we need to target some elements. We need to target the menu icon. Then we need to target the mobile menu items division. And then we also need to target the close icon. So let's do that. We have these classes: mobile menu items, close icon, and menu icon. So let's type const menu icon equals document.querySelector menu icon, and const close icon equals document.querySelector close icon, and let's type const mobile menu items equals document.querySelector mobile menu items. Right now, let's add an event listener to the menu icon. So let's type menu icon.add event listener, and let's listen for the click event. And when we click on this menu icon, we need to add the active class to mobile menu items. So let's type mobile menu items dot class list dot add active. And now let's add an event listener for the close icon. So let's type close icon dot add event listener click. And here we need to type mobile menu items dot class list dot remove active. And now let's see whether this works. So let's click on this menu icon, and we have the menu items displayed. And if I click on this close icon, it disappears. And let's click on these menu items. So let's click on services, and we are taken to the services page, but it is not being displayed right away. We need to close it, and now we can see that we are taken to the services page. So what we will do is we will add event listeners to all these menu items, and when we click on any of these links, we will close these menu items. So for that, let's go ahead and target all the anchor tags inside the mobile menu items. So I'll just type const all mobile menu links equals document.querySelector all, and here we need to add all. So let's type mobile menu items A. So this will target all the anchor tags inside the mobile menu items and store them inside all mobile menu links. Right now, let's go ahead and loop through all those links. So let's type all mobile menu links dot for each, and for each of the links, I'll just call it L, and let's create an arrow function. And let's type L.add event listener. So we will add event listeners for each of the links. And let's add a click over here. And when we click on the links, we want to close the mobile menu items. So let's type mobile menu items.classlist.remove active. And now let's see whether this works. So let's click on this menu icon. And let's click on blog. And we are taken to the blog section, and the mobile menu items disappear. Let's click on about us. And everything is working all right. So with that, we have completed creating our mobile version of our website. Right, here I'm in my source code, and let's go to the index.html file. And if you scroll down, let's go to the blog section. So here we have the blog section, and let's go to the button. So here we have this button called view all posts, and here we'll just add a link called bloglist.html. And let's create a new HTML file called bloglist.html. And now let's go ahead and copy the header and the footer from here. So let's copy from this line of code till the end of the nav, and let's paste it over here. And here after the nav, we need to close the container, and I think it has automatically done that. So now let's go back and let's copy the footer. So here we have the footer. Let's copy it from here till the end of the footer tag, and also the script tag from here, and let's paste it over here just after this div. And now let's go ahead and open this. So let's go to our website and let's click on view all posts, and here we are in the blog list page. Right, now let's start writing the HTML for this blog list page. So let's go to our HTML file, and here let's go outside the nav division, and let's tap end of nav over here. And here the first thing we will do is we'll create a division with the class of post container, and in that we will have a division with the class of container, and in this we will have a division with the class of content for all the content of the blog posts. And then on the right side we need to have the sidebar, so we'll create an aside tag, and here we'll just type sidebar for now. And right now it is not being displayed because it is behind this navbar. So let's go ahead and continue writing the HTML. So let's go to the content, and here let's create a division with the class of blog list, and in that we will have an h2, and let's tap all posts. And after that let's go ahead and create a division with the class of cards container, and in that we will have cards for each of the blog posts. So let's create a division with the class of card, and in that the first thing we need to have is the thumbnail. So let's create an anchor tag, and here we need to add the link of the blog post. So I'll just add hash for now, and here let's create an img tag, and let's add the source. So let's type images / blog1.jpg, and after that let's create a div with the class of blog list content, and in this we need to have the heading, the labels, and this paragraph. So let's go ahead and create an anchor tag for the heading, and here let's create an s3 for the heading, and let's go ahead and copy the heading from here. So I'll just copy this, and I'll just paste it over here. And after that we need to have the labels. So let's create a labels division, and in that we will have anchor tags for each of the labels, and let's copy these labels from here. So if you go to the index.html file, if you go to the blog section, here we have the blog. So I'll just copy these two anchor tags from here, and let's paste it inside this labels division. And now let's go ahead and copy the paragraph. So let's create a p tag, and let's copy this text and paste it over here. So now we can see we have all the content. Let's go ahead and add a couple more posts. So let's copy this card division from here, and I'll just paste it around 4 to 5 times, and let's make some changes in the content. Now this content should be automatically retrieved when we are using this in a template or a theme, but for now we are just creating the design, so I'll just add it as it is. So I'll just type blog2.jpg over here, and let's change the heading. And we need to add the labels as game dev and animations, and let's paste the text over here, and here let's tab blog3.jpg, and let's go ahead and copy this heading from here. Let's paste it over here, and we have networking and advanced for the labels. So let's tap networking and advanced, and let's paste the content over here. And I'll just go ahead and copy the first and the second blog post so that we have some content to work with. And let's delete these cards, and let's paste the content over here. And if you go back to our design, here we can see all the content are displayed. Now on the right side we need to have the sidebar, but first of all let's go ahead and style this left section. So let's go to our style.css file, and let's scroll down, and here let's create a comment. I'll just type blog list page, and the first thing we will do is we will style the container division, which is inside page container. So first of all we need to add some margin top for this container because it is being displayed below this nav bar. Here let's tap post container because we have a division with the class of post container over here, and in that we have the container division. So let's type container, and here let's go ahead and type margin top of 100 pixels. Now the nav bar has also shifted down, so let's go to the nav, and here we need to add a top of 0, and now the nav bar is at the top. All right, let's go back and let's go to the container, and here let's add a padding of 40 pixels top and bottom, 32 pixels left and right, and let's go ahead and add a margin bottom. So let's type margin bottom of 60 pixels, and let's add a box shadow of 0.8 pixels, 42 pixels, RGBA 000 and 0.1, and let's also add a padding bottom. So let's type padding bottom of 60 pixels. Right now we need to display this block content on the left side and the sidebar on the right side. So for that, let's type display of flex, and let's add a gap of 40 pixels between the elements. And here we can see we have the sidebar, and here we have all the blog posts. Now for the sidebar we will have a fixed width, so let's type aside, and let's set the width to 300 pixels. Right now let's go ahead and style this heading. So for the heading we have an h2, so let's go ahead and type post container h2, and let's set the font size to 28 pixels, and let's add a margin bottom of 20 pixels. Right now let's style these blog cards. So here we can see we have this division of the class of card. Now we need to have this image on the left side and the blog list content on the right side. So let's target it. I'll just type blog list card, and let's set the display to flex, and let's align items to the center. Now for the image we need to have a fixed width and height. So let's type blog list card image, and let's set the height to 160 pixels, and let's set the width to 240 pixels, and let's see how it looks. Now we need to also add object fit of cover so that we have the correct proportions for the image. So let's go to the image selector, and here let's type object fit cover. So it will target all the images and set the object fit to cover. And now we can see that the images look alright. Alright, now let's add some padding for this blog list content. So here we have this division of the class of blog list content. So let's target that. I'll just type blog list content, and let's add a padding of 0 top and bottom and 24 pixels left and right. Right now let's target the container division of the card, which is cards container. So let's type blog list cards container, and let's set the display to flex and the flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 32 pixels. Now the labels are not being styled correctly. So if you go to our CSS and if you go to labels, here we can see that for the labels we have added a selector of blog labels. So it will only target the labels inside the blog section. So I'll just go ahead and delete blog from here. So now it will target all the labels. So now we can see that the labels are being displayed correctly. And with that we have styled the blog list of our website. Now this is how the sidebar looks. We have the popular posts over here, we have the recent comments and the categories, and also this download button. And if I decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look. We have the sidebar displayed at the bottom. So let's go back to our source code, and let's go to the HTML file, which is bloglist.html, and let's go to the aside, which is the sidebar, and here let's add the content of the sidebar. Now the first thing we need to add is this popular posts widget. So I'll just create a division of the class of widget, and let's also give it a class of popular posts. And in this widget, let's go ahead and create a heading. So let's create an S3, and let's type popular posts. And in that we need to have these 3 popular posts displayed over here. So for that, let's create a division of the class of widget content. And in this we will have a card, and in the card we will have the image. So let's type images / blog1.jpg in the source. And let's also add the title of the post. So let's create an anchor tag, and here you can add the link of your post. And here let's go ahead and type this text. So I'll just copy this and let's paste it over here. And let's go ahead and copy this card and paste it 2 more times. And let's change the content. So let's change this to blog2.jpg and this one to blog3.jpg. And let's change the headings. So the second one is this heading right here. So let's copy this and paste it over here. And the third one is this one right here. So let's paste it right here. Now if you go back to our website, here we can see that we have the popular posts widget displayed. Now the next thing is the recent comments. So we can go ahead and copy this widget from here and paste it down here for the recent comment. And we also have categories, so let's copy it down one more time. So let's scroll up and let's go to the second widget, and here let's change the class name to recent comments. And here in the heading, let's type recent comments. Now in the recent comments, we need to have the comment displayed with the name of the commenter. And this text is basically a link. So let's create an anchor tag. So we'll just remove everything inside the card. And let's create an anchor tag. And for the href, I'll just type hash for now. And here let's add this text. So just copy this and let's paste it over here. Now for the name of the commenter, we need to make it bold. So I'll just create a strong tag over here. And let's cut this ending tag and paste it after the name. So now we can see that we have this bold name over here. And let's go ahead and delete these 2 cards. And let's copy this card one more time. And for the second one, let's copy this comment from here. And I'll just paste it over here. And let's change this Jane Smith to a strong tag. And here we can see we have both the comments displayed. Right now the next widget is the categories widget. So let's go back, and here let's change the name of this class to categories list. And here for the heading, let's type categories. Now in the widget content, we need to have all these labels displayed over here. So let's go ahead and delete all these cards from here. And let's add anchor tags for the labels. So here for the first label, let's go ahead and type animation. And let's add the class of label over here. And I'll just duplicate it 5 more times. And let's change the text over here. So we have networking, game dev. And then we have tips and tricks, programming, and advanced. And then lastly, we have this download button. So let's go outside this widget and let's create a division with the class of widget. And here I'll just give it a class of download btn. And let's create the download button over here. So let's create an anchor tag. And here let's type download free ebook. Alright, so that's basically it with the HTML of our aside. So now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go to our style.css file and let's scroll down. Here we can see that for the aside we have added this width. So I'll just go ahead and cut this from here and let's paste it down here so that we have all the code for aside in a separate place. So let's type aside, or let's type sidebar over here, and let's paste the code and let's start adding the CSS. Now first of all, let's set the display to flex for this aside, and let's set the flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 60 pixels between each of the widgets. Right now let's style the S3 of the asides. So here we can see that we have S3 for the heading of the aside. So let's go ahead and type aside S3, and let's add a background color of var dark color. Let's set the color of the text to var light color. Let's set the padding to 12 pixels top and bottom, 24 pixels left and right, and let's text align it to the center, and let's set the font size to 18 pixels, and let's set the letter spacing to 1 pixels, and let's add a margin bottom of 16 pixels. And this is how the heading looks. Now for these anchor tags inside the aside, let's go ahead and add a line height. So let's type aside A, and let's set the line height to 1.7. Right, now let's add some styles to all the widget content. So let's type aside widget content. So here we can see that we have this widget content division inside each of the widgets. So let's go ahead and set the display to flex and flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 24 pixels. Right, now let's style this popular posts division. So here we can see we have this division with the class of popular posts. So let's type aside popular posts, and let's set the display to flex direction to column, and let's set a gap of 24 pixels. Right, now let's style the cards inside the popular posts. So here we can see we have this card division, and in that we have the image and the anchor tag. So let's type aside popular posts card, and let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and let's add a gap of 16 pixels. And now we can see that the image is on the left side and the content on the right side. Now let's go ahead and set the height and the width of the image. So let's type aside popular posts img, and let's set the width to 60 pixels, and let's also set the height to 60 pixels. And this is how it looks. And now if we scroll down here, we can see that we have the recent comments and it is being displayed correctly. Let's scroll down, and here we have the categories. So let's style these categories. Let's go back and let's type aside, and we have the class name as categories list. So let's type dot categories list, and let's target the widget content of the categories list. So let's type dot widget content, and for this let's set the display to flex and the flex direction to row, and let's set the flex wrap to wrap so that it wraps to the next line, and let's add a gap of 8 pixels. Right, now let's style these labels inside the categories list. So let's type aside categories list label, and let's set the color to var light color, and let's set the font size to 13 pixels. And this is how the categories look. So everything is looking all right. Now let's style this download button. So let's go back and let's type aside download btn, and let's type background, and let's set the background color to ff385c, and let's add a padding of 8 pixels top and bottom, 24 pixels left and right. Let's set the color to var light color, and let's set the text align to center, and let's set the font weight to bold. And this is how the button looks. Now the color of the text has not changed, so let's go back and let's remove the download button class from here, and let's add it over here. So I just type class download btn, and now we can see that the color works all right. So let's also change the width, and let's set the width to 100%, and let's set the display to inline block, and now we can see that the button looks all right. All right, now the last thing we will do is we will make this responsive. So if we decrease the width of the browser window, when we are less than 1000 pixels, we will bring this aside down. So let's type at media max width of 1000 pixels, and here let's type post container, and let's set the flex direction to column so that the elements are one below the other. And now if we decrease the width of the browser window, here we can see that the aside moves down. Now if you go to the original design, here we can see that the width of the aside doesn't change. So for that, let's go back and let's go to the width of the aside, and here let's also add a min width of 300 pixels so that it will not go below 300 pixels width. So now if we decrease the width of the browser window, we can see that everything looks all right. And here we can see that the aside moves down. And now when we bring the aside down, we need to set the width of all the elements to 100%. So let's go back, and here we can see that we have set the width to 300 pixels. So let's scroll down, and here let's type aside width to 100%. and this is how it looks. And now when we are less than 800 pixels, we'll also remove the space at the top. So let's add a media query for that. I'll just type add media, max width of 800 pixels, and let's tap post container, and if you scroll up and go to the post container selector, here we can see that we have set a margin top of 100 pixels. Let's scroll down and let's add a margin top of 60 pixels. And now we can see that when we are on smaller screens, we don't have the space at the top. But if we go to larger screens, we have this space. And here for max width of 1000 pixels, let's also set the width of the image. So let's tap post container, blog list, and in that we have the card, and in that we have the img tag. So it is right here. Here we can see that we have this blog list division, and in that we have these cards. So let's go ahead and set the width of the image to 100%. And now when we reduce the width of the browser window, here we can see that everything looks alright. So with that, we have completed creating our blog list page of our website, and we have also made it responsive. So here I'm in my source code, and the first thing we will do is we'll create a new file called singlepost.html, and let's copy everything inside the blog list page. So I'll just select everything and copy it and paste it inside this new page. And let's go ahead and delete everything inside the content. So in the content, we have this left part of our page. So let's delete everything inside the content. And here I'll just type content. And now we can see we have this content on the left side and the sidebar on the right side. So now let's go ahead and link this. So let's go to our blog list page, and here for the first blog post, I'll just go ahead and change the anchor tag href to singlepost.html, and I'll just do the same for this heading. And now if you go back and if I click on this blog post, we are taken to the single post page. Now we can see that for the content we don't have the full width. So let's go back and let's go to styler CSS file, and here let's go to the post container content. I think we haven't added that selector for the content. Let's search for it, content, and we don't have that selector for page container content. So let's scroll down and let's add that post container content. So I'll just create a comment over here, and let's tap single post, and here let's tap post container content, and let's set the flex to 1, so it will take up all the space that it can. And now we can see we have the correct width. Now first of all, let me show you how it will look in the end. So this is the single post page, and the first thing we need to have is the breadcrumbs. So here we have the title of our post, then we have the category, and then we have the home page. So this is the breadcrumbs, and then we have this title of our blog post, then we have this metadata, and then we have the labels, and then we have the thumbnail, and then we have the content, and at the bottom we have the recent post displayed. So let's go back and start with the breadcrumbs. So let's go to the blog single post page, and here in the content, let's create a division with the class of breadcrumbs, and let's create an anchor tag, and here we need to add the link of the home page, and here in the text I'll just type home, and here we can see we have the home, and let's add a greater than symbol, and let's create another anchor tag, and here let's type the category name. I'll just type game dev, and let's add greater than symbol. And for the title, we don't need to have the anchor tag because this is not clickable. This is the current page. So let's go back, and here let's create a strong tag because we want it to be displayed as font weight of bold. So let's type the title. I'll just copy this and paste it over here. And now if we go back, here we can see that we have the breadcrumbs displayed. Now the next thing we need to add is the heading. So let's copy the heading, and let's go back. Let's go outside the breadcrumbs division. Let's create an h1, and let's give it a class of post heading, and here let's paste the heading, and then here we have the heading, and then we need to have this metadata. So let's create a division with the class of post meta, and here first of all we need to have the author and the date. So I'll just create a division with the class of date, and let's type posted by, and let's add a strong tag, and let's add the author name. I'll just type admin, and let's type on. Let's add a strong tag, and here let's add the date, and let's type 23rd June 2024. And here we can see we have the metadata, and then we need to have these labels. So let's go outside this date division, and let's create a division with a class of labels, and in that let's create anchor tags, and here let's create a class, and let's type label, and here let's add the label game dev, and let's duplicate this, and here let's type animations. And now we can see we have the labels displayed over here. And then we need to add the thumbnail. So let's create a division with the class of thumbnail over here. Let's go outside this post meta division, and let's create a division with the class of thumbnail. And in this we'll create an img tag, and in the source let's type images/blog1.jpg. And now we can see we have the thumbnail displayed. And after that we need to have this post body content displayed over here. So I'll just create paragraphs for that, and let's add all of them inside a post body division. Let's create paragraph and add the paragraphs over here. So I'll just do the same for all the paragraphs. So we have added all the content, and after the content we need to add the recent posts. So if we take a look at this design, we can see that it is the same as the blog list page. So if you go back to the blog list page, here we can see that we have this design, and we have the same design for the recent posts. So let's go ahead and add that. We just need to change, I think, the font size of the heading. So let's go ahead and copy this element. Let's go back to the blog list page, and let's copy this blog list division, and let's paste it over here. Let's go outside the post body division, and let's paste the blog list division over here. And we just need to add 2 recent posts. So let's go back and delete all the extra posts we have over here. So this is the first card, and this is the second card. Let's remove all the other cards. And now if we go back, here we can see that we have the recent post displayed over here. We just need to change this heading. So let's scroll up, and here instead of all posts we need to type recent posts. And that's basically it with the single post page HTML. Now let's go ahead and add the CSS and make it look like this. So let's go to our CSS file, and here let's start adding the styles. First of all, let's style the breadcrumbs. So let's type breadcrumbs over here, and let's add a background color of F3, which is a light gray color. And we need to set the width of the element to fit content, and let's set the font size to 14 pixels, and let's add a padding of 0 top and bottom, 24 pixels left and right. And let's add a line height of 1.8 so that if it is displayed in multiple lines we have some gap. And let's add some margin bottom. So let's type margin bottom of 24 pixels. And let's add a border radius. So let's type border radius, and let's set it to 4 pixels. And now we can see we have these rounded corners. Right, now let's style this post heading. So for the H1, here inside the single post.html page, we have this heading with the class of post heading. So let's type post heading, and let's set the font size to 40 pixels, and let's set the line height to 120%. Right, now let's style this meta. So we have a division with the class of post meta. So let's type post meta, and let's set the display to flex direction to column, and let's add a gap of 8 pixels. So this is adding a gap between this line of text and these labels. Right, now let's add some margin top for this thumbnail so that it has some separation from these labels. So let's type post container thumbnail, And let's set the margin top to 32 pixels. Right now we need to add this line at the bottom of this post body, and we need to add some padding and some margin. So let's do that. Let's go back over here and let's type post container, post body, and let's add a margin bottom of 60 pixels. And let's add a padding bottom of 60 pixels as well. And let's set the border bottom to 1 pixel solid db. And here we can see we have this separator. And the last thing we need to do is change the size of this heading. So for that, let's go back over here and let's add some class to this container. So here for the cards container, I just type recent posts container. And here let's type post container, recent posts container. And in that we have the heading. So we have the S3. So let's type S3. And let's set the font size to, let's try 20 pixels. And I think that looks all right. Right now, the last thing we will do is when we are on smaller screens, we'll just decrease the font size of this heading. So let's go to the mobile version. And here we have this font size. So let's go back. And here let's go ahead and type at media. And let's add a max width of 800 pixels. So whenever the screen width is less than 800 pixels, we just type post heading and let's set the font size to 36 pixels. And here we have this heading displayed in a smaller font size. So everything is working all right. And we have the recent post displayed over here. We have the sidebar displayed at the bottom. So that's basically how you can design this single post page using HTML and CSS. So the 404 page is basically a page that is shown when the user enters any invalid link over here. So for example, if the user types testing.html over here, and here we can see that this is how our page looks right now. But when the user goes to a page that doesn't exist in our website, we need to show a better screen. So this is what we're going to design in this video. We're going to create this 404 page. We can see we have this image over here and we have some information. It has some details about the error, and here we have the actions that the user can take, and we also have the link to go to our home page. So this is also responsive. So if I decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on smaller screens. So let's create this in this video. Let's get started. Now for the 404 page, let's create a new file called notfound.html, and let's copy all the code from this single post page. So let's select everything and copy and paste it over here for not found. And now let's go ahead and delete everything inside the page container. So we don't want to have this sidebar and also this content, but we want to have the header and the footer. So for that, let's go ahead and delete everything inside the post container division. So here we have this content, and in that we have all the text content, and here we have the aside, which is the sidebar. So let's delete both these divisions from here. And now we can see we have the container. So we can just type 404 page over here, and let's go to the 404 page. So let's type notfound.html, and this is how it looks. Now right now we are going to the notfound.html page to display the 404 page. But if you are using this design in a theme for WordPress or Blogger, they have specific ways of displaying 404 pages. So you can just go ahead and add the design to that section. And whenever the user enters any invalid URL, they'll be taken to that design. So right now, let's go ahead and design this. So here in the container, let's go ahead and create two divisions, one for the left side, and let's create one for the right side. So I'll just give it a class of right. And let's also add a class called notfound over here so that we can style this container differently. Now on the left side, we need to have the image. So let's create an img tag and let's type images / and we have this image called 404.svg. And on the right side, we need to have some text. So let's go ahead and create an h1 tag and let's give it a class of text 404. Let's add a hyphen over here, and here in this h1, let's just type 404. And let's create a paragraph tag, and here let's add this text that we have in this page. So let's copy this and paste it over here. And then we need to have an unordered list. So let's copy this and let's create a heading for this. So just type h4 and let's paste it over here. And let's create an unordered list. and in that we'll have list items. And for the first list item, let's go ahead and copy this and paste it over here. And for the second list item, let's create an anchor tag, and we will type hash for now. And here you can add the link of your home page. So let's type visit our home page. So that's basically it with our HTML. So if you go back to our website, this is how it looks. Now let's go ahead and style this using CSS. So let's go to a style.css file. Let's scroll down and let's create a new comment called 404 page. And the first thing we will do is we will target this division with the class of not found and container. So let's type not found dot container, and here let's set the display to flex, align items to the center, and justify content to the center as well. Alright, now we need to have the same width for the left and the right divisions. So for that, let's go ahead and type not found dot container left and not found dot container right, and let's set the flex to 1. So this will set the same width to both these divisions. Right now let's go ahead and set the height for the image. So I'll just type not found left image, and let's set the height to 300 pixels, and let's set the width to auto. And now we need to bring this image to the center. So for that, let's target the left division. Let's type not found left, and let's set the display to flex, justify content to the center. And now the image is in the center. Now let's target this text 404 heading. So let's type text 404, and let's set the font size to 180 pixels, and let's set the font weight to 800, and let's set the line height to 100%, and this is how it looks. Now for the paragraph, let's go ahead and add a margin. So let's type not found p, and let's set the margin to 8 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right. Right now let's style this h4 inside the not found division. So let's type not found h4, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels. Right now let's style these list items. So let's type not found ulli, and let's type margin of 8 pixels top and bottom, 0 for left and right. And now for this link, we need to add an underline and also change the color. So let's type not found a, and let's set the text decoration to none, and let's set the color of the text to var accent color. We need to change it to underline, not none. So now we have the underline for the link. Right now let's quickly make this responsive. So let's decrease the width of the browser window, and for smaller screens we need to have a max width set for this right division. So let's tap at media, and let's tap max width of 1000 pixels, and let's tap not found right, and let's add a max width of 500 pixels, and text align to the center. So this is how it will look on smaller screens. Let's also change the height of this image. So let's tap not found left img, and let's set the height to 240 pixels. Let's also change the size of this text. So we have a heading with a class of text 404, and let's set the font size to 120 pixels. And now for the list items, we need to have a text align of left. So here let's type text align left, and this is how it looks. So that's basically it with the mobile version of our 404 page, and everything is working alright. We have everything working alright on desktop version as well. And for the mobile menu items, it is not displayed at the top. So let's fix that. Let's go back to the mobile menu items selector, and here we have the mobile menu item selector, and here we have set the position to fixed. Let's also type top of 0, and now we can see that it looks alright. So with that, we have designed our 404 page. Now in this video, I'll show you how to create the search button over here, and when we click on the search button, we need to display the search box. So here we can see we have the search button over here at the navigation menu, and if I click on that, we have the search box displayed over here, and we can type the search term over here, and here we can see that it says escape, and if I press escape, we can see that the search box disappears, and we can click on the search button to search for that term, and we can also click outside this search box to hide the search box. And this is also responsive. So if I decrease the width of the browser window, this is how it will look on smaller screens. So on smaller screens, we have a smaller width for the search input field, and we don't have the escape button displayed on smaller screens. So let's go ahead and design this in this video. Let's get started. Right here, I'm in my source code, and we're going to add this into the single post.html file. And let's go to the navbar. So here we have the navbar, and if we go to our website, here we can see that in the navbar we have the logo and we have these menu items on the right side. Now if you go ahead and add a new division over here after this menu items, and if I just name it search icon, and let's go ahead and get the icon from heroicons.com. So here I'm in heroicons.com, and let's search for search, and let's copy this icon from here and let's paste it over here. So now we have added this search icon, and let's go back to our website, and it is not being displayed. So let's add some basic CSS. So let's go to styler CSS file, and here at the bottom let's go ahead and type search box as a comment, and here let's type search icon SVG, and let's set the width of the search icon to, let's try 24 pixels, and I think that looks alright. But here we can see that our menu items have switched to the center. Now we want all of this to be together. So let's go back and let's go to the HTML file, and let's cut this search icon from here, and let's paste it inside this menu items division. And now we can see that everything is displayed correctly. Now on smaller screens, we need to have this search icon as well. So let's go to the mobile version. And here in smaller screens, we can see that the menu items are not being displayed. So we need to add the search icon separately. So let's go ahead and copy this division from here. And let's go to the menu icon division. And here let's create a container division. And let's give it a class of mobile icons container. And let's add this division inside the mobile icons container. So we have the menu icon, and let's also add the search icon. So let's paste it over here. And now we can see we have both these icons over here. So let's go ahead and display these one next to the other. So let's go over here to styler CSS file, and let's type @media, and let's add a max width of 800 pixels. And here let's type mobile icons container, and let's set the display to flex, and let's add a gap of 24 pixels. And we need to hide this in larger screens. So let's go back, and here let's go to the hidden items section. So here let's go ahead and add mobile icons container. And now we can see that the mobile icons are not displayed in desktop version. Right now let's start designing the search input field. So if I click on the search icon, we have this screen over here. So let's go back and let's go to the single post.html file. And here let's create a division. And let's give it a class of search container. And here let's create a division with the class of search input container. And in that we will have an input field. And let's set the type to text. And let's add a placeholder, and let's type search this website. And let's go outside this, and let's go ahead and create a button. And let's give it a type of submit. And let's add a class of search button. And here let's type search. Now on the left side of the input field, we need to have this icon. So let's create a division with the class of icon over here. And let's add the icon. So let's copy the SVG. So let's copy this SVG from here. And let's paste it over here inside the icon division. Right now let's style this using CSS. So let's go to a styler CSS file. And right now this is how it looks. So let's go ahead and first of all, let's target the search container. So let's type search container, and let's set the position to fixed, and let's set the display to grid and place items to the center. And let's set the inset to 0 so that the left, right, top and bottom positions are set to 0. So now we can see that everything is centered. And let's go ahead and add a background color, and let's set the color to RGBA 0, 0, 0 and 0.8. And let's bring it to the top of all the other elements. So let's type Z index, and let's set it to, let's try 800. And let's also add a blur. So let's tap backdrop filter, and let's set the blur value to 8 pixels. Right now, let's go ahead and style this input field. So let's go ahead and type search container input with the type of text. And let's set the width of the input field to 700 pixels. And let's set a border radius of 8 pixels. And let's set the font size to 20 pixels. And let's set the padding top and bottom to 16 pixels. Now if I click on this, we can see that we have this outline of blue color. So let's remove that. I'll just type search container input field with a type of text. Now let's type colon focus, and let's set the outline to none. And now we don't have the outline. And let's also remove the default border that we have over here for this input field. So let's type border none. Right now we need to bring this icon on the left side of this input field. So for that, let's go ahead and set the position of the container, which is search input container, to relative, so that we can position this icon relative to this. So let's go ahead and type search container, search input container, and let's set the position to relative. And now let's target the icon. So let's type search container icon. And here we can see we have this division with the class of icon. And here for the icon, let's set the position to absolute. And let's set the left position to 16 pixels of the search input container. And let's set the top to 50%. And let's set the content to blank. And now let's set a width for the icon. So let's type search container icon SVG. And let's set the width to 24 pixels. And here we can see this is how this icon looks right now. Now we have set the top value to 50%, so it starts from the 50% mark. So we also need to type transform translate y of negative 50%. And now it is exactly in the center. And now for this input field, we need to add some padding left so that it is displayed after this icon. So let's go to the input field. And here let's add a padding left of 60 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Now here on the right side, we need to have this text displayed called escape. So for that, let's use an after selector. So here I'll just type search container input with the type of text colon after. Let's set the content to escape. Now let's go ahead and position this escape relative to the search input container. So I'll just delete this from here. And here let's type search input container. And now let's go ahead and add some styles over here. So let's type top of 50% and transform translate y of negative 50%. And let's set the right value to 16 pixels. And we also need to set the position to absolute. And let's set the font size to 13 pixels. And let's add a padding of 4 pixels top and bottom, 8 pixels left and right. And let's add a background color of RGBA 187, 187, 187 and 0.2 for the opacity. And let's add a border. So let's type border of 1 pixel solid RGBA 000 and 0.2. And let's also add rounded corners. So I'll just type border radius of 4 pixels. And that's it with our escape key. Now let's style this button. So for the button, we have a class of search btn. So let's go ahead and add that over here. I'll just type search container search btn. And let's add a padding of 12 pixels top and bottom, 24 pixels left and right. Let's set the font size to 16 pixels. And let's set the font weight to bold. And let's set the border to none. Let's add a background color of var light color. And let's add a border radius of 8 pixels. Right now, let's go back to the HTML file, and we need to add all of this inside a form. So here, let's create a form element, and let's cut this ending tag from here, and let's paste it over here. And let's add this button inside the form, and let's also set the width of the button. So here for the button, let's type width of fit content. And this is how our search box looks. So everything is looking all right. Now let's quickly style the mobile version. So let's decrease the width of the browser window. And here let's add a media query. I'll just type at media, max width of 1000 pixels. And here for the search container, let's set the width of the form to 100%. And let's add some padding for the search container. So here, let's type padding of 32 pixels. And let's set the width of the input field to 100% as well. So here let's type search container input with a type of text. And let's set the width to 100%. And let's set the font size to 18 pixels. And let's go ahead and hide this escape key from here. So let's type search container, search input container, colon, after. And let's go ahead and set the display to none. And now we can see that we don't have the escape key displayed in smaller screens. And here we have the escape key displayed in larger screens. Right now let's add the functionality of displaying the search box when we click on the search icon. And when we click outside the search box, it should disappear. And when we click on the escape key, also it should disappear. So let's do that. Let's go to this search container selector. And by default, we'll set the opacity to 0. And let's set the pointer events to none by default. And when we click on the search icon, we will add an active class to this search container. So let's type search container dot active. And here let's type opacity of 1. And let's set the pointer events to auto. And let's add a smooth transition over here. So I'll just type transition of all 300 milliseconds ease. So now we can see that the search box is not being displayed. And if you go to the HTML file, and if I add the active class over here, then here we can see that the search box is displayed. So now let's add and remove the active class using JavaScript. So let's go to the main.js file, and first of all, let's target some of the elements. So let's target the search container because we need to add and remove the active class. So let's type equals document.querySelector search container. And we need to target the search icons. So let's type search icons equals document.querySelector all because we have multiple icons. And let's type search icon. And now let's target the search input field. So let's type const search input equals document.querySelector search input container and input with a type of text. And then lastly, we need to target the search input container equals document.querySelector search input container. Right now, let's add event listeners for all the search icons. So let's add a comment. I'll just type search icon, and let's type search icons dot for each, and let's loop through all the search icons. So let's type search icon for each of the search icon, and here let's type search icon dot add event listener, and we'll listen for the click event. And when we click on the search icon, we need to display the search container. So let's type search container dot class list dot add, and let's add a class of active. Now if we go back to our website, and if I click on the search icon, we can see that the search input field is being displayed. Let's also add the cursor of pointer for this icon. So let's go back over here, and let's go to the search icon. So here let's type search icon, and let's set the cursor to pointer. And now we can see that the search input field is being displayed. Now we need to hide this when we press the escape key. So let's go back, and here let's type document.add event listener, and let's listen for the key down event. And here we get some value, so I'll just call it E, and here let's type e.key equals escape. So if you press the escape key, then this will execute. So let's type search container dot class list dot remove active, and we'll also clear the value of the input field. So let's type search input dot value equals blank. Right now let's click on the search icon, and we have this input field. Let's press escape, and it disappears. Right now let's go ahead and add some value over here, and let's see whether it clears. So let's escape, and let's go back, and the value is still there. So let's go back, and let's see what's the problem. And the search input, let's go to the search input, and here we have a typo. We don't have the ending single quotes, so now it should work. Let's go back, and let's click on this search icon. Let's type something over here, and let's press escape. And now let's go back, and here we have the input field displayed. So everything is working all right. Now when we click on the search icon, we should automatically have the cursor displayed over here so that it is easier for the user to type something over here. So I think we don't have a padding at the right side, so let's add a padding over here as well. So let's go back and let's go to the input field, and here let's add a padding right of 70 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Right now let's go ahead and focus on this input field when we click on the search icon. So for that, let's go back and let's go to the main.js file, and here for this event listener, let's also add search input dot focus. And now if we click on this search icon, we can see that we already have the focus on the input field. Now the last thing we need to do is when we click outside the search input field, we need to hide it. So let's go back, and here let's add an event listener. So let's type document.add event listener, and we'll listen for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here, and I'll just type E for the event that we get. And here let's add an if condition, and let's type if e.target.closest. Now this will check whether we have this selector. So let's type search input container, and we also want to select the search icon. So let's type e.target.closest search icon. So when we don't click on any of these elements, we need to remove the active class from the search container. So here I'll just type return, so it will not do anything when we click on these two elements. And here let's go ahead and type search container dot class list dot remove, and let's type active over here, and let's set the search input value to blank. Right now let's see whether this works. So let's click on the search icon, and we have this input field displayed over here. Let's click somewhere outside, and it disappears. And if we click inside this input field, we don't have any problem, it doesn't disappear. But if we click outside, it disappears. So everything is working alright. Let's check out the mobile version, and let's click on this search icon. We have this input field displayed, and everything is working alright over here as well. So that's basically how you can add this search icon and search input field to your website. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.